It was a long time in the making, but finally you get to hear from Deshi Mike Hayes.
In general,
Mike and Sokari discuss their journey together over the last 13 years. Sit back and enjoy.
Let's see, I was back in London, so I want to say 2012, or was it 2013?
So it had to have been after September of 2012, because I was teaching full time. I wasn't working.
Gotcha.
Right? When I got the first email. But, like, what I know in the email, brown shirt, she said the general email was, we're looking for something interesting to do, right? And then the second email was, I've emailed you, why haven't you responded?
Yeah.
I'm like...
it's one of those things. Yeah, so I mean, like, it all started where, we'd been dating for a while at that point. We were looking for kind of a joint activity that we could take on. Martial arts always had interested me, and, she was interested in learning new skills. I think both of us were kind of looking for something that was, not the traditional karate school or karate kid martial arts kind of thing, because neither of us had done that growing up or anything like that. I thought, when she mentioned she'd found somebody who taught sword, traditional Japanese weapons, I thought that'd be very interesting, because it's certainly different from anything else that you normally would see, and it just seemed to be something that sounded like an interesting thing to get into. So so she reached out to you via email, and we did eventually connect and go there. And it was first impressions. I mean, it was cool. Like, it was definitely something entirely new to us and entirely unique. And I liked how hands-on it was. And just the whole flow of the classes and everything. I really enjoyed. I think with Kabuto and doing the different weapons and things, like, there was enjoyment with that. Bow staff I actually really enjoyed, but I think the the actual sword classes, that was, I found them to be rather meditative, which was a cool thing. It was the approach to how you teach and how you interact. I mean, it was a small group. I'm trying to think back then. It's probably only about half a dozen of us, I want to say.
Yeah, in the weapons, yeah, not everybody wanted it, right?
Yeah, well, and I'm also thinking back then too. Like, it was a super small group, which
yeah.
That also helped out a lot too, though, because it meant that it was, you had that much more one-to-one education. You had that much more hands-on, and then there was a real interesting growth to how we were going about doing our different sets and kata as well. So yeah, and I mean, like, some of the stuff, thinking back, like, I feel like there were a few nights there where we must have gone through, I don't know how many Boken, because I remember we figured we probably got a bad batch or something, and we were shattering them left and right. I think there was one night where you went through 4 of them, I want to say.
And yet, you want to say you got a bad batch, but what if it wasn't? What if?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah, just particularly in tune that evening. Yeah, it's possible.
What if everybody was just getting that good?
Yeah. I mean, there were. I think back to that night. There were definitely a couple of those where it's like, there was a non. It was like, yeah. When you always getting the right flow and everything, like, it's a really cool feeling. And it really amps everybody up there. And yeah, I mean, like, it was. I think back, like, I still have the Boken that I bought. That was, like, the higher quality wood and everything, and, like, that thing's like battered to heck. I mean, it's the number of strikes that thing's taken. It's actually like bent the blade on it slightly. Hasn't broken though, so it's held up over the years there. But
I still have that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think too, like doing some of the stuff with the live blades as well. We had access to that. Yeah, and trying to, my really nice sword, being a little bit panicky doing a cut, and then as a result, not going in clean and bending the blade, and then having to figure out how the heck are we going to be able to fix this up now? But,
well, and I said it then, I'll say it again. A second before you engage the stroke, in the back of my head, it was the screaming, "No, stop!" Right?
Yeah, and I mean, as I was probably like, inches away from striking, and I had that momentary like lapse of concentration where it's just kind of a brief moment where it's like you lose focus, and like it really is a testament to like how important it is to maintain that focus all through it.
Yeah.
I do still think like that focus had been maintained, it would have been fine, but it was just one of those situations where it's that brief little lapse, and
but
it's a
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just saying, it's a sign of when, like how important it is to maintain that focus over time, and like what can potentially happen if you don't.
For sure, like and thankfully it stopped at a bent blade and nothing else, right? But then beyond that, from that misstep, what did we learn? We learned how to fix a bent blade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny because like looking up the process for doing it, I'm like, I was trying to get all fancy with like, we got like vice grips and stuff that we can use, and like look back to the original sources of like, okay, how did this would not be an unusual occurrence in medieval Edo era Japan. What did they do? And it's like, you had 2 blocks of wood, you had a slot in it that was wide enough to accommodate a blade, and you would just manipulate the blade that way. It's like, an incredibly simple solution, but even hundreds of years later, just as effective. And it turned what was a very unnerving moment, let's just say, into something that was a good learning experience.
Yeah, because that was the second blade that you had purchased, so that one was a little bit.
And that was definitely a little bit more dear of a price as far as blades go. Because that was one that was more true. I mean, it was still obviously not a Japanese manufactured blade, but it was a more traditionally manufactured blade. So it had the tenahagai and like the different levels of steel that were put into it, so it would have more similar characteristics. But obviously, those manufacturing processes make it a little bit more expensive than something else you can see. Playing with live ammo at that point.
Yeah, and then lately I've been going to a lot of tournaments, doing a lot of refereeing, and you see these kids with swords, and they're throwing them up in the air, spinning them around their necks, and it just makes me cringe, like, and then everybody's giving them like 9.9, 9.99, 10, and I'm like 7.1. And then I got to explain why.
And I think, you look at, because I think most initially, if you're going to be judging sword work, like I think one of the best things to do is get people to do tatami mat cuts, because it's one of the things where you need to see a master doing that cut, and you need to see amateurs doing that cut to realize what the level of skill is, because people look at it. Okay, big whoop, like you can cut through a bundle of mats. It's like, it's understanding, do you have is the angle correct, speed correct, is the follow through correct, is the focus maintained through the entire stroke.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, it's the thing that, you know, when I talked about like why we wanted to come back to class with you, it was the whole concept of, well, the crime that you're seeing where it's, you know, I'm going to spin stuff around my neck, or I'm going to do, you know, like, because I know Aikido does a lot of, you know, they will use bokens for different things, but, you know, like, when I was originally looking at stuff, I was also looking at Kendo as potentially an option as well, too. It was the practical application of this traditional art that interested me the most.
Right.
So, you know, like, the functional practicality of, you know, using a weapon in the way it was meant to be used is far more interesting to me than, you know, like, I'm going to do it like a kata with a bow staff where it's, you know, the bow. I'm sure you might remember, like, my bow staff's like 6.5 feet long, and it probably weighs about 30 pounds. It was a really thick one.
Yep.
I'm not going to be rolling that thing around my neck or anything like that.
No.
Because it's, you know, it's not, it's a tool. It's not supposed to be something that is used without care or finesse or an understanding of what the ultimate intention is for it.
That's right. That's right. I mean, seeing you get it, right? That's the thing. And most of my students do, and JR gets it now, but I cringe when I go to these tournaments now and see the kids. Every time I see a sword, I walk away from the ring now. I won't, you know, I try to stay away from it because they don't understand my credentials, right? So,
you know, and I think a lot of that practicality comes from, you know, there's like a lot of what we were doing, like the different sets and stuff, you know, like it was Boken on Boken contact. And I mean, I remember, not that we did it a lot, because I seem to recall you tagged me in the hand, and I ended up tagging you in the head, but, you know, when we would spar with the Boken as well, you know, it's kind of the same thing where it's like, the manner in which I think a lot of those kata are taught, and I certainly don't have as much experience with, you know, going to the tournaments or seeing what the kids are doing or anything like that, but at least my perception and understanding of that is it's so divorced from how you would practically use
100%.
Like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, we talked about this. Like, one of the most effective things you can do is just cut the hand.
Yep.
You know, like you don't need to go for some super fancy, you know, killing stroke or whatever. If you're able to disable your opponent's wrist, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to use a sword effectively after that point.
Yeah. And, you know, simplicity is your best answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you, like, I know when you guys came to me, we did a trial, so you weren't locked in or anything, and then we went from there. Do you recall at what point you went, okay, this is for me, this is the right place, this is the right teacher? Like, because I mean, you know, 2012, that's...
Yeah, I mean, we're going back. I mean, you're asking me to go back a while, but I recall it didn't take long. I mean, it was, if it wasn't the first class, it was definitely within the first couple, just because I think your approach to everything, you know, like, it wasn't a putting on airs, it wasn't a, you know, like, I come down from on high to teach you, you know, and you're going to bend at my knee in order to learn. It was a respect for, I have knowledge and information, and, you know, and you were pretty frank about it as well, too, because you were still through your journey as well, coming to terms with, you know, your knowledge and understanding and getting to know more about, you know, about sword and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it was also the willingness to share that information, you know, and I think that was, you came to it more as a scholar as opposed to, you know, somebody who, as I said, you know, was putting on airs or something. And, you know, can't remember the name of that. You would show me this stuff occasionally. It was the guy had the YouTube channel, joke channel about was it Sensei Ken or something like that? I'm trying to remember. It's like not early YouTube stuff, but like YouTube stuff from like 2010, 2011. There was a guy, had the mall dojo, and he had, his embossed lettered gi and everything, and you would it was a parody of all those.
Oh yeah, Master Ken.
Martial art. Yes, there we go.
Master Ken. Yeah.
But not that people act like that in real life, but we both know the kind of individual who is kind of like that and who that kind of thing's parodying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like if I'd gone to the class and you turned out to be something along those lines, like I would have been polite, but we wouldn't have gone back. I mean,
right.
Because that's, as I said, it was the knowledge, it was the respect that you brought with your teaching. I think that was, the more interesting thing, the reason to come back, as opposed to, hey, you want a black belt in 6 weeks? Like, here, just come talk to me, and we'll get you all squared away there. Yeah,
I think I've always been upfront about my stance on rank and how slow it's going to take you to get through me. I'm trying to level that out with practicality now. Just seeing, all the guys that started with me back then and before, and how many of them I've had to get to black belt now. Like, Mike, I haven't had so many black belt gradings in my whole life. Like, I've got 4, 6, probably 8 people I had to put up to black belt in the last year.
I mean, that's not a horrible thing for an instructor to have, but yeah, I know what you mean.
No, they were ready for it. It's not like but I had to. Like, it was, it was like, geez, man, we got to fix this. You guys been with me this long, all the information. Like, we can't keep holding you guys back. And
but it was, as we said, it's the, where are you coming to the approach from? Is it for you, or is it for the furtherance and knowledge and passing that kind of information on? And I think I don't know. It's horrible to say as a Deshi, but I don't know a lot of I don't think I know any of your current students beyond maybe just a brief knowledge there. But I would imagine the individuals that I saw you wanting to foster their journey and their education. They're not going to be people who are in it for themselves or for their own glory. They're going to be people who are in it to, make an honest approach and attempt at learning an art and honing it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's absolutely where they are, right? And I'm disappointed in a couple of them. They've kind of slipped off the pace, and I've had the coming to Jesus talk with them, but there's only so much you can do, right? And
ultimately, as a teacher, you're not going to, every student is not going to be, exactly what you'd hoped or anything like that. But
well, why not?
Free will is still a thing.
I guess. Dang it. Well, yeah. I mean, and what I like to, even with that, even if they've slipped off the pace a little bit, they still acknowledge, they still want to do it, and you can see it. It's just, I've had a little bit of a rough patch, or, I'm giving up a little bit, and I get that. Man, I went through it, so I got to be sympathetic to that too, right? There's, and I know, my younger days I was a little bit harder. I think people have recognized that I've softened a little bit on my, how do I word it? My mannerisms, my dojo.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, you come to a realization where, people can't separate entirely from society and, just spend, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at the dojo. As nice as that would be, that's not a practical way of anybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I actually, that was one of the things that I came to.
But, no, I mean, the experience, we've talked about this many times over the years, but,
yeah.
I'm thankful for the opportunity that work gave me. I do, it's odd to think, but like me and Brown Shirt, I mean, our relationship has pretty much entirely been in Northern Ontario. We're moved up in 2015, and we've been here, it'll be 10 years before too much longer. So I'm thankful for all of that. But, there are definitely things that, stick with me for things that I missed about moving up from down south. And, the dojo was definitely one of those things. It was still, it's funny because we've tried to do multiple things over the years, and I mean, we're in Elliott Lake right now, so it starts at the Legion and, shuffleboard and stuff like that, but nothing's ever really kind of had the same sort of effect that the dojo did. So, there is that sense of missing out on that as time's gone on. And, as I said, I wouldn't trade what we've done, but it's definitely, something that, brings some melancholy once in a while, I guess.
Well, but the thing that I appreciate about what you and I did together and what Nikki was a part of, it is the three of us built a friendship that has lasted too.
Yeah,
and like you don't find that with every organization or every dojo. Like, I have my guys that have been with me for over 10 years, 20 years. Like, and yeah, you'll see that, but you'll see one guy still with the Grandmaster. I've got 15. So the secret sauce is there. Like, I'm doing something right,
Yeah.
And, the point case too, like, you guys come down here, you come and pick me up, we go for breakfast. I was up at your place there in North Bay, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're back in North Bay.
Yeah,
so I found some ice cream in the middle of the winter.
Yeah,
just a thing you do.
Right. I came up for a weekend, and I plan on making it up to Elliott Lake. Like, so
yeah.
For me, these moments are the things that I really appreciate. Like, my effort has given me now. Like, my previous self has given this self these connections that, and without it, maybe I wouldn't have made it through all the garbage I went through. And, it's been a fantastic ride for me. Like, even getting the doctorate and getting the 10th degree, I look back and you guys are part of that. My journey is part of your journey, and I try to stress that more than anything, that every accomplishment that I have is because of my students, because of my friends, right?
And as an outside observer, it's wild to look back, and I think, like, when we started, you were still negotiating your relationship with your teacher at that point, and kind of coming to terms with how you felt about everything. And I know there's a lot of conflict and internal conflict with that conversation and stuff. But I remember there was the ups and downs. We had the dojo, the place out on Adelaide there, and then we were out of that for a while, so we were out of your backyard for a bit.
Yep.
I think back to, I remember trying to source tokens and stuff, like,
yep.
And picking up, I remember we had to try to track down belts and everything too, but just like the minutia that goes along with dojo operations. But I look back to that, and we lost contact for a bit there, but reconnected, and it was just friendship. Yeah, like a friendship, definitely for sure. But also just it's a little bit more than that, because it is the relationship between a student and a teacher, and I do respect that aspect has always there's always been that undercurrent that's gone along with things. So
yeah.
It's cool to have that kind of relationship there. Yeah.
So, but
and I also look back to those days too, and and there was an appeal to that. Like I liked it was kind of wasn't the what the heck was that Burt Reynolds movie? The football team that was like the underdogs. I'm trying to remember what the hell that was.
The Gridiron.
Yeah, Gridiron game.
Yeah.
It was that kind of underdog, scrappy feeling.
Yeah.
That the dojo had, and that was actually one of the more appealing aspects of it. Like it wasn't some spit shined fake appearance. Like it was, what we're wearing what we do on our sleeves, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And that is it's still the same today. That it has not left.
Yeah.
It's still that is still there, for sure.
And I think that there's that's why would you ever want anything other than that? To me, that's the truth that goes along with that kind of environment. Why would you want to be training anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's some of the most real training you can get, right? But I'm biased, so.
Nothing wrong with a little bias.
No. And the thing about you and Nikki that never leaves me, and is the whole brown shirt thing. And I wanted to address that because I want people to know that story. I remember standing there, and I could not, for the life of me, remember her name at all. Every time I went to talk to her, it escaped me. But every class, underneath her white gi, she wore the same brown shirt.
Yeah, the same brown shirt, yeah.
So
actually, it's funny. So there were actually two brown shirts, but they were both the exact same shade. So yeah, because I do actually think she had two separate shirts that she wore for training and stuff. But they just both happened to be brown. So, yeah.
So it was it just came out one night, brown shirt, and it just stuck.
No, exactly. It was, I don't think I never got a nickname or anything like that.
No.
But,
no.
Yeah. But then again, I wasn't the one who was reaching out through email and yelling at you.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. I should have remembered her name because she's the only person I've ever had yell at me in an email. And the second email I opened, or second or third, I was just so busy that week. It was like a camp week or something, so I'm like, well, I'll put this off till next week. I'll get back. And then, I was sitting there on the one night, and it was like, I have messaged you many times. Aren't you interested in getting new students or something in that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. One thing I will say for Brown Shirt is, when she gets something in her mind, it's happening.
Yeah, and then here I am, so I'm like, I better respond to this. So I'm like, well, I apologize. It's been a busy week for me. Blah 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 blah. Not trying to put you off, and then it just went from there. But it's just a funny interaction how things go, right?
Well, as I said, I think it's one of the things that with Brown Shirt and I that would be really. As a couple, we always want to try to do stuff together, and there's always been kind of that desire that she's had to make sure, we want to get this done, we want to do things, and we want to do it now, and I think that kind of mentality is always sort of in there.
Yeah.
And that would have been part of the urgency for, why haven't I heard back from this martial arts instructor, because this is something we really wanted to do.
And I admired that about you guys too, how you guys just looking at your relationship, and I was trying to get that, but you guys have that closeness where it's, you just know. Like, I still remember the one night you came in, you dropped her off, and you left because she needed to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was, you were taking care of her by letting her just talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think, and that's the other benefit with having the student-teacher relationship, that it's kind of, sometimes it's nice to have that individual who, they're a friend, they're somebody you can trust, but they're also something more than that.
Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that I am that for a lot of people, right? And I do not take that for granted. Like, that's one of my roles, that if somebody says I need you, like, I take that very seriously. But it was just, it was interesting for me to see you trust me that much to put her in my hands, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To say.
But that's also something, that gets, that speaks back to the respect that goes along with it too, because it's not just a question of trust, but it's the respect that it's implicit with that kind of relationship.
Yeah. No, it's I would definitely, like, between the three of us, it's pretty deep. Like, we're not a surface trio. Like, we're pretty entrenched, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I look back to, my old roommate, who I lived with before Brownshire and I got together, she's often said with him, that we just kind of have this bond or whatever that happens. And it's kind of the same thing. It's the whole, we could not talk for 5 years, and then, 5 years goes by, you just pick up the phone, you sort of pick things up as if nothing had ever really changed.
Right.
And I feel kind of the same way about our relationship, where, what if,
yeah, and that did happen.
I fall off the face of the planet, and I don't show up for a while. It's still, nothing really necessarily has to change with that.
No, and that happened for, I think it was about 3 years, and then I got.
I was going to say it was definitely a few years there, but I also felt like when we reconnected, it was kind of like nothing had really ever changed that much, to be honest.
You guys, we talked, and then you said I'll be down in a couple weeks. We'll go for lunch, and then I had moved into my new place, and and I was taking better care of everything, right? So Mandy and I were on our feet, so that was me. I was just getting through my own stuff, and it's funny because I sit back and I watch these other guys, like Mike Bernardo and I now have a bit of a relationship. Where I don't know, we're not friends, but we're not. He's not getting my kidney,
Yeah, we're not into trading bodily organs yet. Okay.
Yeah,
but that is kind of the next logical step in the relationship.
For sure, right? But
7th date territory there.
Yeah. But even watching him with his students, he's disconnected.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's so far disconnected from his students, it's like, wow. Like, I can see there's an issue there, and you just walked away from that guy. Okay. That guy was trying
to... I think to me, that's kind of, it's frustrating because, you see, from a business sense, it's like, man, I really like to see, my instructor succeed. I'd like to see somebody who's clearly passionate about what they're doing, turn turning things into a really good operation. But there is something that gets lost with that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily anything that you can blame somebody. I mean, certainly there are individuals out there where, you know, yeah, okay, you're operating a for-profit dojo, and it's very clear from the get-go, like that's what the idea is. But I think there's also a lot of people out there who they might have gotten into it with the best intentions, but as time's gone on, it's not, you know, there's just too much stuff happening.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I saw at the last tournament before Christmas there, and I grabbed Mike and I was talking to him, and I was talking to I forget his name. There's myself, Mike, and it'll come to me. But I said, like, because I watched Mike. Mike's not quite 10 years older than me. And this other gentleman, I feel like such a fool now not remembering his name. But I used to look up to him because he was friends with Ron Day. And, and I said to the two of them, I said, my coming up behind you guys, I got to watch you guys do things and at tournaments and push and give us some inspiration. And, we're here at the tournament, and every grandmaster is in street clothes, and we should be in gis with our belts and our chest puffed up for everything that we've done. And we're the inspiration, not the parents standing on the sideline yelling at their kid to do better. We're the inspiration. Like, you guys are missing a trick by not standing the ground and staying in your gi and, being that idol, being that's where I want to be. You guys are missing the trick. You guys are supposed to inspire. You can't inspire in jeans and a t-shirt. And that was at that tournament. I was at a ring, and I said, "Wait, I got to put my gi on," and he goes, "No, you're fine." I said, "What do you mean I'm fine?" He goes, "You don't need your gi top on. You're fine." So I'm there in a hoodie with the Dojo logo on it and gi pants, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Right? So this is where, on these tournament circuits now, they've come to put the judges in a golf shirt, and so you don't really know who's in charge. You don't know who has high rank. You don't know any of that. Everybody's just walking around in golf shirts and shaking hands. Well, quite frankly, I haven't put all this time in so I can be forgotten.
Exactly. And I think it's not funny, but so there's a couple things that I look at. So first off, there's I don't know if I ever told you about, like, this is going back before we met, but back in university, we would go out for a couple of wobbly pops Wednesday nights. There was a guy by the name of Rick McGee. He played at the university bar. Everybody would get absolutely loaded, and it was Hanover Central on Thursday morning. Now, I always had a rule that you cannot possibly be hungover if you're wearing a suit. So, more often than not on Thursdays, and that actually was a nickname for me when I was in school, was suits, because most Thursdays I would be wearing a suit to class or at the newspaper office, because that's the only way that I'd make sure that I wasn't going to be hungover the day of.
Okay.
And, there's that, and there's also, just the traditional, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. But I think there's something to be said for when you're talking about individuals who are coaching a martial arts competition. They're supposed to be people who are of a higher rank and are, representing their dojo, but also just representing the history and the technique and the
Exactly.
Yeah, get out of your golf shit. Like, it's not, you know, if you're refereeing or something like that, and you know you're like you got two kids sparring, and you're going to be in you know, a golf shirt or something like that because you're, you know, doing like the UFC sort of thing. Sure, but beyond that, no. Like, no, you got to make sure that you're dressed for the part.
Yeah, and you know, a couple of tournaments back, I had a seat at the table with at dinner, so it's really, it's sinking in now that I am a 10th degree and everything, but I had a seat with a bunch of 9th degrees and 8th degrees eating dinner, and I was very quiet, like I was just listening, and the one guy, Terry, says to me, he goes, "What do you think of all this? You know, with, you know, we're not wearing our gis and we're standing out there." And that's really, I blew up kind of then. I told them I thought they were being stupid, and you know, and you know, I said, "Where's the inspiration? You know, where is that drive? Where do you inspire them to do better? Because eventually they get to wear a pair of pants and shoes on the mat. That's not inspiring anybody, you know." And that was actually kind of a pretty big moment. I had to sit back and think about that one after it happened, but
No, I think, you know, there's a, not a power, but there's a implicit understanding that goes along with how you carry yourself, and a lot of what goes into that is also, you know, like, you're going to carry yourself differently when you're geed up versus when you're, you know, out in a golf shirt or whatever, when you're dressed in civilian clothes.
well, even look at police officers, undercover police officers, as to a police officer in a uniform.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm not saying we're the same. I'm just saying, like,
No, but it's, you know.
Same with your line of work, right? If I came in for a loan and you're wearing a Metallica t-shirt and ripped jeans, I'm supposed to take you seriously? You're going to tell me, no, I can't get a loan? You know?
No, and I mean, and like I joke about it, but Brown Shirt's pointed out on maybe a couple of occasions that I got a baby face going, and you know what? Yeah, there's a reason why I've got facial hair, because end of the day, I'm younger than a lot of individuals in my industry, but it doesn't change the fact, like, I've been doing this job for 15 years, but it's one of those things where if I want people to take me a little bit more seriously, like, unfortunately, you give them somebody financial advice, they're expecting somebody who's, you know, got a little bit of white in their hair, you know, or at least doesn't look like they just got out of high school. So, same kind of idea.
Maybe we should have nicknamed you Babyface in the dojo.
I mean, you know, it only works if I'm clean shaven, and Brown Shirt's got a rule that I'm never allowed to be clean shaven. So
there you go.
So she's a smart lady.
She is, actually. She's a yeah. So you know, it's been different. It has been a different thing, and a lot of the guys will tell me too. Like, they've said that the 10th degree is not as important as that PhD.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, I think like, you know, because as I said, I talked to you a little bit about the education aspect that comes in. It's like the conservatorship, like the point that you're basically holding on to a piece of history. You know, it's not it's certainly a knowledge thing, but it's also the fact that you are a repository of that kind of knowledge, and I think that's what a doctorate gives you versus the 10th degree. You know, I think it's that recognition. It's like, because when I think of, you know, doctorates,
Yeah, I guess I can see that. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big, distinctions that goes along with that. Certainly it's a knowledge thing, and the 10th degree already says that that's the knowledge, but it's going beyond that with all of the other aspects too. And I think that's where the doctorate comes in. You're not just a teacher, you're not just somebody who is knowledgeable about this, you're a scholar about that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess it does elevate it, complements it, right?
Yeah, it does. I think it defines. It does a better job of defining what that 10th degree actually means. It has the added benefit too of also providing a little bit of context for somebody who might not be in martial arts or in that sphere. But I think it also does a good job of distinguishing beyond that 10th degree. It's the practical understanding that the 10th degree has, but now it's also the knowledge and science that goes along with it as well.
Yeah, you're right. I can see that. Yeah.
But I also think at the end of the day too, like there's also a certain hollowness that's implicit to any kind of, knowledge and education. Well, sorry, not knowledge and education, but like, what belt am I? What degree am I? What are my titles and everything like that? It's cool to have that information for sure, and that definitely can be a good way of understanding certain aspects of things. But I'm also leery of anybody who is, using titles or recognition as the be-all, end-all when it comes to, well, here's who I am and here's why I'm such a good person because I've got X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, we had dealings with a guy like that. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I seem to recall you had somebody who you were telling me about this probably a couple of years back, but who showed up at the dojo and it was kind of like, well, show me what you got, and they were the ones who were like being incredibly aggressive with trying to show off that they were. I think this is a guy who was either he was a black belt or he thought he should be a black belt, so he was just trying to go all out for proving himself.
So that if it's the same guy I'm thinking of, he was apparently a black belt in Kung Fu and wanted me to show him what I had because he was looking to franchise somebody's dojo, and he wanted to be the first one to own a franchise. So instead of being the guy that was franchising his system, he wanted someone to do it and then sell it to him. And he was a black belt in Kung Fu, but when he came in, he said he'd wear a white belt. And then I put him with Steve Dow, who passed away. And Steve was a blue belt in American Kenpo. And he got the brown belt with me. And the first time Steve worked with this guy, I was standing. So, we had in the Kenpo, we had their lineups. They were going through self-defenses. And we did a water break, and Steve come over to me. He said, I need to talk to you real quick. I said, yeah. He goes, this guy is not a fucking black belt. And he walked away. And that's just the way Steve was. He didn't talk about it. He didn't elaborate. He's just like, this guy is not a fucking black belt. I'm like, okay, thank you. And I watched the guy, and then I put him with somebody, and he tried to hurt. I know he was trying to hurt somebody. So then I worked with him, and we didn't see him again.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's a guy that was definitely carrying that black belt around as the crowning jewel of his life. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's more to it than just being...
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, but I do think that there is an issue, and I see this you see this in all walks of life. It's people who look at the number in their bank account
Right.
Or it's people who, like I went to school X or I have, degree Y. Like, cool, that's good, but don't let that replace, your entire identity as an individual.
Exactly.
Like, that's great. That's great that you've attained that specific level. Clearly, this is something that was important to you, but it also there's more to life than that. And I think that's the other thing. Going back to why we stuck around at the dojo. Like, I think that's another major aspect of that as well, which was, when I talk about somebody who's putting on airs, some of it's that perception of, like, are you Master Ken, or are you an actual real person who is doing this because they're passionate about it? And then beyond that, it's a question of, like, are you looking at your rank or anything else like that as anything more than just a flat declaration of, like, here's where I am with things, but this doesn't define who I am.
Yeah, and I think I've always been level-headed with that too. I like to believe it anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
The only time it ever gets away on me, it has ever gotten away on me, is when I'm in the ring fighting. And that's my
also reasonable.
Yeah, that's my self-talk, right? I am a 4th degree, I'm a 5th degree, I am representing my system, I am not going to win, I am a Shihan, boom.
Yeah.
That's where I draw my inspiration from when I'm in the ring, right? But, a couple weeks ago I got back in the ring with everybody. Oh, yeah.
Sure, that was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Were they ready for you?
They were not.
Yeah.
Well, I've lost a bunch of weight again, eh?
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I'm taking that Ozempic.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That'll definitely do it.
Yeah. And I'm back. Oh, I got a gym membership. I got to get in the gym, but yeah. So I've probably lost 40 pounds, I think. Down again, but I really.
I still remember you demonstrating the 1-inch punch on me. That was always lots of fun.
Well,
at least you had me hold a phone book. That was good. At least that was nice.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to cave in your chest, and I mean, it's dramatic too, right? You have somebody hold a phone book, and they look at you and go, "Whatever," and then it's, well, keep that mindset. I want you to hold on to that whatever mindset. Really dig in deep with that.
This is gonna help you with the next few minutes there.
Yeah. How'd you feel after that? Do you remember?
I mean, because I also, once again if you tried to pull that on me at our first time up there, first of all, you would have been a pretty bad teacher doing that, but also just I'd had enough understanding of where you were coming from that, you're telling me, I need to have this phone book here and brace yourself. Okay, yep, I can certainly, I don't know exactly what I'm in for, but I can certainly respect it. But yeah, it was, what's Mike Tyson's line? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's kind of one of those situations. So,
Yeah.
But it was a good understanding as well too, because I never really got too much into the hand-to-hand stuff.
No.
Brown shirt and I, we were much more the weapons than anything else. But it was a good understanding of what capabilities are there for individuals who do train to that degree.
For sure. Yeah. Next.
Later this season. Yeah, it's possible. It'd be cool to have that happen. But
that's awesome.
It's funny because I've told people a few times that it's what I enjoy about shooting. It's one of the only things that actually is kind of close to sword.
Yep.
The meditative aspect of lining up and just kind of you have all of the distractions gone. All you're thinking about is what you're doing in that exact moment. That's the only thing that kind of reminds me.
Exactly. Well, you could take it a step further, because I know I do. Even when I'm loading a gun, right? That's getting your sheath ready and fixing it to your hakama and like, you know.
Yeah, it's very, very zen.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah. I got all my questions out of the way. Is there anything you wanted to ask me?
I mean, you know, next time I'm in town, we really want to check out the dojo and stuff. So
absolutely.
Next time I'm down in London.
Oh yeah. You wanna talk about Fifth Avenue accommodations? The new dojo, man.
There we go.
Yeah, we're in the basement of a church that quite often floods, and we're next door neighbors to Mike Bernardo. So
there are worse things in the world than.
Oh no, we're.
End of the day.
No, and I mean, like I said, Mike and I, you know, I didn't ever expect that I'd be able to carry on a conversation with him. We've texted back and forth a number of times, and you know, every tournament I go to, he shakes my hand, and we're chit chatting about stuff, and it's, you know, yeah, I've become quite a politician.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay, well, get down here. I'll show you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you chatting with me there. It was good. Always good to catch up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, it's my success is your success. So, and you know, I did tell you, like, part of me getting the 10th degree in that is now I need to fix everything. So we got to get you need to get a couple of students up there, or one. You need to start teaching, and then we can get you your black belt. Shake the rust off. Pick a weekend just in March there. I'll come up.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Bye for now, Mike.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.